Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. Today, we're so thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Maddie Baillio to talk all about her latest movie, Cinderella. And I wanted to start by talking a little bit about auditioning, because when you did Hairspray Live, it sounds like that was such a great job. Also, that there was a bit of trepidation as to whether you wanted to go in for that audition and kind of making the final decision the night before, which I think is so interesting because I'm sure that you had been preparing for it. And then at the same time, there's a certain element of just gut instinct that you have to lean into. And was interested in how auditioning for that and having that experience has informed the way that you go in for auditions for movies like Cinderella and other projects that you've done since.
Right. Wow, that's a wonderful, thoughtful question. Thank you. So yeah, for like you said, for Hairspray, I had decided the night before I could not go to sleep. Which so I think that was like an instinct. I knew that I need to go to this. I need to go to this audition. It was my first professional audition outside of college, and we it's against the rules to audition, and I'm a rebel at heart, so I knew that I had to do it. So I went to the audition. I was like 343rd in line, I believe. And I auditioned with Bernie Telsey, who has also cast me in Cinderella. But now I have a team. I didn't have a manager or an agent or anyone back then. And so that was really my choice. I had to do it. And so now, thankfully I have people who, get me appointments, and that's what happened with Cinderella. So I went to New York. So Hairspray moved me out to LA, and I stayed here for a few years, and I missed theater so much. So I went out to New York in 2019 and decided to do some more theater auditions, and it was going really well. And then I got an audition for Cinderella, and I went in person, which I haven't done in a long time because of COVID. And that's really where I thrive, are in-person auditions, because we're collaborative people, actors. And so when I'm doing a self-tape, it's not as collaborative. But for Cinderella, it was a really wonderful audition, and the casting director really walked me through what the director's vision was. And then I didn't hear anything back for 2 months. So I thought, every 100 auditions, you'll get one job. You're doing great, right? So I thought this was another one that I had connected to so deeply. And it was really a bummer when I thought that, somebody else had gotten it. But I heard back 2 months later that our wonderful director and writer, Kay Cannon, really enjoyed my take on Malvolia. And she asked me to do a screen test with two actresses from London who would play my sister. And so I had already signed, all the contracts. So I'm thinking, okay, she's going to see me in the screen test and go, never mind, this isn't it. And but that thankfully didn't end up happening. So I had a Zoom call. I was in New York. Kay was she was in LA. And then the actress who plays my sister in the film, Charlotte Spencer, was in London. And so Kay loves improv, and she loves to switch up lines all the time. We never stuck to the script ever. And so Charlotte and I were improvising with each other, and there's like a 7-second delay, which was just so awkward. And we still can't believe that we booked this to this day.
And then following that and working with Charlotte, because your two characters are so intertwined, and there's even moments where there's either choreography or blocking that the two of you are doing where you're having to be completely in movement with one another. Do you have much of an opportunity to spend time together really talking about actors and where you wanted the similarities to lay? Because obviously as sisters, they both have unique personalities, but so a lot of aspects is that kind of like almost Siamese element in the way that they move together in the film.
Yes, we are truly yin and yang together. She and I approached our work differently. So I am over prepared. I have the lines in my body. And this is something that I'm working on as an actor, and that I took away from this film for sure, is that just to be more in the moment and have a conversation. And that's what Kay really loved about mine and Charlotte's relationship, is that I don't know. I'm really into astrology. So I think something about Charlotte being a Libra and me being an Aquarius, it just worked out. But Charlotte taught me, to live in the moment and to just be. And so we could not look at each other without laughing because we just found each other so hilarious. And as a professional, that's not the way to do it. But the scenes that we got were not the ones where we were cracking up, thankfully. So they were able to find something. But acting with, or working with Charlotte was a dream come true for me. Mm-hmm.
But I love hearing that that was part of your rapport together, because there's so much great comedy between the two of you and a lot of actions. And one of the scenes that comes to mind is the you're literally pinching her cheeks and then you slap her and you say you're just trying to put some color in her cheeks. And did Kay encourage the two of you to play around in a lot of the scenes like that, finding the comedy, or did a lot of that just land very natural, the rapport that the two of you had?
Yeah, she encouraged us. She encouraged us to do whatever felt natural, as long as we were all comfortable. I say that because there was one scene where early on in filming, I was so super intimidated to be working with everyone, but especially Idina Menzel, because she is just my idol, my hero, my everything. And so one of the scenes that we were doing, I was just so out of body, and I tried so desperately to stay present. But when I'm seeing a masterclass working in front of me, it's really difficult. So Idina was doing improv. She was in her body. She was, she was just amazing. And she was improving and she slapped me, which was wonderful. She slapped me, but I didn't know it was coming. And so everyone was shocked. And Idina immediately goes, "Maddie, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" And it was my birthday. And I was like, "Idina Menzel, just slap me. You can do this over and over again." It didn't make it into the film, but I'm glad that mine and Charlotte's slap did make it into the film. And that was Charlotte's idea. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or do anything too hard, but Charlotte was like, "You got to do what you got to do. Just slap me. And so by the end of filming, she was so red. But it's so fun. I'm glad that made it.
Well, talking of Adina, I wanted to ask you about building that relationship and that rapport with her as her daughter on screen, because she's obviously playing this character who has raised her daughters and is raising her stepdaughter in incredibly strict ways. And it's interesting because the film does give a little bit of background and we learn a little bit of the reason behind that. But with the fact that that is the environment and a lot of your characters' upbringing has been your value and your worth is Mary, not what you try to do with your own identity. And so how did you look at a lot of details like that to really shape who she was as a character, thinking about her upbringing with her mother?
Right. And I think that's something really special that Kay really, it came across well in the film, is that we're not evil stepsisters in this. We are not bad people. We're a little mean to Cinderella, but that's because we see our mother, she's harsh on Cinderella. And so it's really, we're a product of the way that we grew up. And I think it's really important to show that. And wow, Adina was incredible to work with. I would pick up on her mannerisms playing her daughter, and I would, because that's what I've done with my mom. I'm exactly like my mom because of the way that I was raised. And, we have our little quirks, but same with Adina and I. And I was really fortunate to spend some time with her. We worked during COVID. And so we didn't have a lot of rehearsal time with a bunch of people or in the studio. So we would find places like in fields with horses, and we would just get to dance and sing and connect as humans, which really helped me get over the fact that I'm such a big fan of her, and that made me be able to work with her better.
And with moments where they see the way that their mother's treating their stepsister, you and Charlotte have some great asides and a lot of exchanged looks. And so how did the two of you figure out what a lot of that nonverbal communication was going to be between the two of them? Because there's so many moments where, the two of you are just at the edge of the frame and we just see the two of you glancing at each other so many times.
Yeah. Well, so Charlotte and I would just be in the moment. and Camila and Adina, when they'd have these super intense mother stepdaughter moments, it was painful to watch, as girls who are empathetic and who love their sister. It was hard to watch those moments, and yeah.
I also wanted to talk about a lot of the different music styles that come into the film as well, because there's such a difference between the way that you're performing a song like Material Girl to the stylistic tendencies of What a Man. And so what was that like in terms of getting to think about the different music stylistic elements of your, both when you were recording music before, but also then when you were performing it on screen as well and with the choreography?
So I recorded all the music beforehand, and Kay really helped me find Malvolia in those moments through my voice, which was super helpful. And we do Material Girl, which was my favorite song to do with Adina and Charlotte. That was such an amazing experience. And then Adina also has an original song, which is incredible and emotional, and a big feminist moment. So it's interesting how we go from Material Girl into Adina's original song, and they're completely different. And I think that shows a good arc throughout.
You also have some great moments in the film of flirtation. So there's a guy, Thomas, played by Rob Beckett, who comes over, and your character is the first one to be eyeing him up, while everybody else is like, absolutely not, no interest in this guy, make him go away. You know, and then even when they're out, when you're with your sister and your mom outside just hanging up laundry, there's a guy across it again. She's always kind of like looking for that. Did you think of that as a lot of, you know, how she was raised and the fact that she has been raised to think about, I need to find a husband, I need to find a partner, or if it was just kind of part of her bubbly personality that she always just wants to try and connect with everyone around her as well?
Yeah. So one of the selling points for me for Malvolia, when I accepted the role, was that she was totally different from who I am. I grew up in Texas, in a Christian household, and my parents did the best that they could. But growing up in Texas in the Bible Belt, there's a lot of shame around sexuality and promiscuity. So when I accepted Malvolia, Kay was telling me, like, this girl, she is just coming into her body. She is so sexually positive. And so that was really interesting for me as a human to find that. And Malvolia is just really forward all the time. So that was so much fun to play.
And one of the other scenes I wanted to ask about filming was kind of like the penultimate ball sequence, because there's so many mini scenes and storylines and narratives and many characters telling their story within that. And so I was just interested in overall the experience of filming a scene that scope-wise is that large, really utilizing every single person in the cast throughout, because there's moments where you and your sister and your family are at the forefront, and then there's moments where we're focusing on other characters, but you're still coming in for the musical numbers. And so imagine it must have been a really extensive process for that part of the film.
Oh my gosh. And there were so many people. We were able to film the Blackpool ball scenes in Blackpool in this huge tower. Literally, I think 3 days before COVID shut us down. So I'm grateful that we were able to get those scenes done. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done. But yeah, so I filmed the house scenes with Adina and Charlotte and Camila. So it was just us and very intimate. And that's where I learned a lot as an actor. And then we went to this huge ball scene. And actually before the ball scene, the scene was cut, but we sang Single Ladies by Beyonce. And it's me and my sister leading 200, 300 women to the ball with fire lighting on either side. And there was so much energy. It was so amazing. That'll be in the director's cut, and I'm sure there are many bloopers. But there was so much energy for the ball scene, and it was so beautiful. Yeah. Oof. I get chills just thinking about it.
Amazing. Yeah, hopefully that others see on DVD extras and will sneak out online in some way. Overall, though, with the fact that there were so many different stylistic scenes, what was the most challenging aspect or type of scene to have to work on for the film?
We all just had so much fun with every scene. whether it were emotional or we're dancing and having the time of our lives. But for me, the most difficult scene was when we're getting ready to go see the prince for the first time. And this was my very first day on set. And I was struggling with anxiety and imposter syndrome because I'm walking in to this room of, amazing performers up, in their prime. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? And so that was my first day on set, and the director and Adina and Charlotte, they just all poured so much love into me. And I think that turned out to be my favorite scene.
Amazing. I also think as a performer that you have such unique experience doing these projects that are really melding different stylistic techniques. So when we look at her, obviously that's mixing theater, it's still a screen performance, it's live, it's television. And then with this as well, it's a film, but it really still leans into the theatrical, kind of the musical theater side of everything as well. And so when you're doing projects like this, which are such a cross culmination, are you thinking at all about the different styles that you're trying to bring into your performance? Or is it something where it's just very clear what that specific project needs in terms of that mix of realms?
Well, I grew up as a theater performer, and I studied musical theater. And still, yes, musical theater is bigger. It's bigger, and you use your whole body and everything that you have in you. But it's also based in truth and honesty and living in the moment, in the present. And I found that's the same for film. So Hairspray in particular was such a unique experience in that it is musical theater and it's live and it's on television. And so Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who played Tracy and won the Tony for Tracy, she was telling me, she said, this is going to be the coolest thing you ever do. And at the time I was like, well, I hope I do other cool things. But I think what she meant is that it's so unique, and the fact that you have to find this balance. But at the end of the day, it's just honesty and living in truth.
And in working on Cinderella, because you were mentioning how you really felt like you got the opportunity, like working with Adina, to get to watch this masterclass, and with a lot of the cast that you're getting to work with, like Camila and Charlotte, what do you feel like you really came away learning that you want to carry into your future projects as a performer from working with the cast that you did on this movie?
Well, Adina showed me that it's okay to ask questions. I always thought that that would be a fault of mine, or it would show weakness if I don't know exactly what I'm doing all the time. But Adina, she would take time in between scenes. If she didn't know exactly what Kay's vision was, she would communicate with her. And I found that's when I did my best work, was when I was on the same page with the director. And yeah, and Adina, she had her lines in her. She knew everyone's lines all the time, which is, I think, what Dolly Parton did in 9 to 5. That was a funny thing about her, is that she learned everything and she was so in it. And same with Adina, which I wasn't expecting. And so just to watch her, the way that she worked was pretty incredible. I'll take that away with me forever.
I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear it was such a wonderful experience working on this movie. And thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.